receive our dignitaries for today's event. Thank you very much. Please take your seats. Good evening, the 28th, of June, and we are here to discuss science. The Vice-Chancellor, Pro-Vice, the Registrar, professors, doctors, incoming doctors, students, ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to today. It is African Union or OAU then decided that we needed to highlight science, what it means for national development and what it means for Africa. Today we have a varied of activities for us. We are going to have 3 keynote speakers, and then we will have a rivet in the environment. Now, we have all heard about Galamsey and what it means for us. There had been a couple of engagement with the government. There have been a couple of discussions. There have been documentaries which had led to a journalist winning the Journalist of the Year. This means that it is really a key discussion that we must have when we are talking about science. But hello, I don't think that I am really in a position to tell you what this is all about. To invite on stage Professor Felix Ankoma Asante, who is the Pro-Vice Chancellor of Research, Innovation and Development. But before I leave, I know you'll be wondering, who is this? My name is Joy Sakite Ahiadome, and I am your MC and the moderator for today. I hope that you enjoy this discussion and you will go home understanding that you have a role to play in the development and the sustainability of the environment. Now, help me to.
The Vice-Chancellor, Pro-Vice-Chancellor for Academic and Student Affairs, the Registrar, Provosts, Deans, Directors, and Heads of Department, distinguished invited guests, faculty and staff, students, the media, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. On behalf of the management of the University of Ghana, I welcome you all to this afternoon's event, which are short. Today, the University of Ghana stands proudly with its counterparts across Africa to celebrate our continent's remarkable intellectual achievements in accordance with the AU Declaration. This declaration calls upon African scientific community to make substantial contributions to our continent's development and to harness our vast resources for the benefit of all. In 2022, the Office of Research, Innovation and Development led a series of events at the college level and a high-level panel to climax it. The theme for 2022, Ghana Ask, Legon Answers, focused on the pressing challenge of managing plastic waste. The celebrations were a resounding success, showcasing a wealth of knowledge, technologies, and innovations to our local and international stakeholders through exhibitions, community engagements, seminars, and workshops. In 2023, in recognition of the university's 75th anniversary, the theme, Nurturing Resilience, Adopting Technology, Embracing Humanism in the Delivery of Quality Education. As the University of Ghana celebrates 75 years of academic excellence, the DSRA celebration showcased equally important areas where the University of Ghana has made advancements in innovation and technology to accelerate development. This year's celebration at the college level have generated even more interest, providing a platform for the university to continue to make in their daily lives. Today marks the culmination of a month-long commemoration of scientific achievement at the University of Ghana. We extend our heartfelt congratulations to our researchers, scientists, and scholars across all disciplines for their outstanding discipline of scholarship. This afternoon, which marks the third edition of the DSRA, we have gathered experts and scientists to interrogate the threat of illegal mining and its impact on our land, health, and economy under the theme Galamsey, preserving the environment, protecting our future. Galamsey, a term synonymous with the phrase gather them and sell, meaning on our environment, public health, and the future of our country. Together, we acknowledge the severity of this issue and reaffirm our commitment to sustainable solutions. As we celebrate this day, we are reminded of the critical importance of multidisciplinary research and collaboration. Today's speakers have been carefully selected to explore the extensive impact of Galamsey on various sectors of society and to research and mass media communication. Together, we can develop effective strategies to mitigate the negative impacts of Galamsey. We each have a responsibility to work together to find solutions to this pressing challenge. Let us leverage our collective expertise to develop innovative solutions that balance economic development with environmental protection. And let us use this occasion to reaffirm our commitment to the values of scientific inquiry, collaboration, and sustainability. In conclusion, I would like to express our deepest gratitude to the members of the planning committee for their dedication in organizing this event. I also wish to acknowledge the contribution shared during this event and engage with our esteemed speakers whenever the opportunity arises. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, sir, and I believe that he deserves more of our applause. Okay, so the conversation has started, and I'm sure you're beginning to pick notes. Now, for every occasion, we will need a chairperson. And so please help me to welcome Mrs. Emilia Ajay Mensah, the registrar, to introduce to us who our chairperson will be for this evening.
Distinct pleasure to introduce the chairperson for today's event, marking the 2024 celebration of the Day of Scientific Renaissance of Africa at the University of Ghana. Our chairperson is the first female vice-chancellor of the University of Ghana. She's a professor of linguistics and an experienced university administrator with over 2 decades experience in the higher education sector. She's a member of many prestigious societies and organizations and is a fellow of the Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me to welcome Professor Appiah Amfo, Vice-Chancellor of the University of Ghana and Chairperson for this afternoon's program. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Registrar. Our keynote speakers and panel members, composed of distinguished persons for this very important discussion, faculty, staff, and members of convocation, past and present senior officers of the university, alumni and students. I see ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon to you all, and it's a pleasure for me to chair this very important event. I take the opportunity to welcome you all to this auditorium and a special welcome for those of you coming from outside of the university. This public event is to climax University of Ghana's celebration of the 2024 Day of Scientific Renaissance of Africa, DSRA. As you may well know, June 30 has been set aside by the African Union as the African Scientific Renaissance Day for the continent to reflect on the contribution of its scientists to the development of modern science and technology. As Prof read mentioned, since 2022, the University of Ghana has been actively involved in the celebration with unit-led initiatives to literally take the simple but very important reason for this celebration is to serve as a strategy to make the university more visible as a means of achieving global impact through human-centered innovative research. This is also an opportunity to draw attention to the scholarly works, innovations, and development championed by members of the community. And so you can see that this event was preceded by an exhibition. And so if you didn't pass through the exhibition before coming here, I hope that at the end of this event, the exhibition will still be open for us all to go and see the very interesting things that our researchers, including our students, are engaged in. As Vice-Chancellor, this also resonates with my first key strategic objective, which is to reinvigorate impactful research in the sciences, applied sciences, and humanities, as well as the fifth key strategic objective, which seeks to promote UG's visibility. This year, as I did in previous years, I followed intensely activities of various colleges, schools, and departments of the university, and wish to seize the opportunity to commend all stakeholders for engendering community engagement events themed Connecting Communities with Science. The College of Education organized a webinar on generative AI, African perspectives on its challenges and prospects. The College of Health Sciences also took its turn to celebrate the tremendous contributions of researchers in the field of science and health science towards our country's development. And the College of Humanities held an inter-college lecture and a roadshow on publications and other works undertaken by its faculty. These are some of the highlights of this high-level panel discussion to push the discussion on Galamsey a notch higher. This is to give us a vivid picture of the current state of our distressed water bodies and forest vegetation, to remind us of the imminent danger we all face, and most importantly, demand immediate action to curtail this rather backward practice that has become pervasive in parts of our society today. During this lecture, we will hear from distinguished experts who will shed more light on the complexities of Galamsey, its impact on Ghana and its neighbors, the steps being taken to address this critical issue. Their insights will help us understand the scope of the problem and explore sustainable solutions that balance economic needs with environmental and social responsibilities. It is true that a number of such programs have been organized, but our motivation is to revive and reignite the passion to continue the advocacy. The color of our river bodies started getting better. Organizers of this event have carefully selected distinguished persons with various backgrounds as keynote speakers and panel discussants to speak to the theme Galamsey, preserving the environment, protecting our future. They will holistically dissect the conversation with all sides and angles covered. Though considered as a source of livelihood for many in mineral-rich communities, Galamsey has also brought about severe environmental degradation, posing a significant threat to our ecosystems and to public health. The extent of environmental degradation caused by Galamsey is staggering. Our own ESA produced a report, and in it they referred to the Water Services Commission report, which indicated that as of 2017, the pollution of our water bodies as a result of Galamsey and other activities stood at 60%. We also have a report a report released this year, which is from 2020. In Ghana, we are at 58.2%. Meanwhile, the minimum you need is 80%. And this was as of 2021. And we can only imagine where we are at now. It's indeed a worrying situation. And this kind of pollution has not only affected the world. Furthermore, the deforestation rate is alarming. Ghana is gradually losing its tree cover, much of which can be attributed to illegal mining activities. The World Bank highlights that Ghana's deforestation rate is one of the highest in Africa, with significant portions of our forests being cleared for illegal mining. This deforestation exacerbates soil erosion, reduces biodiversity, and contributes to climate change in an adverse way. Beyond the environmental impacts, the health implications are also profound. Toxic chemicals used in illegal mining, such as mercury and cyanide, contaminate water sources and the soil, posing serious health risks to us all. Studies have shown increased incidences of respiratory diseases. Water, breathe fresh air, and thrive in a healthy environment. It is imperative that we address the menace of Galamsey with urgency and determination. I'm therefore excited at the opportunity to chair today's event. Let us be inspired by the spirit of the Day of Scientific Renaissance of Africa to engage in thoughtful dialogue, share our perspectives, and collaborate on actionable strategies to address Galamsey. I thank you for your attention.
Okay, let's continue to do it until she sees. And three of them are women, including me. And let me tell you, we are going back to another woman. Okay, I didn't see your excitement. Please clap. And so, thank you to the organizing committee for ensuring that, again, we are able to project that women can equally do science. Without saying much, I am here to introduce our first keynote speaker. He is Professor Benedicta Ofusu Mensah from the Institute of Environment and Sanitation Studies. She holds a PhD in ecology and natural resources management, soil science, from the University of Bonn, Center for Development Research, Germany, and Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, and a Master of Science from the University of Bonn. During her decade-long career at the Institute, Professor Ofusu Mensah has supervised several MPhil and PhD students, demonstrated joint research grants, and worked on several communities. Currently, the chair of Technical Committee of National Mirror on Circular Economy of International Organization for Standardization, that is ISO. Additionally, she serves on the management board of the Institute for Environment and Sanitation Studies and doubles as the examination officer for the Master of Philosophy and PhD programs at the Institute. She's a tutor at Mensa Sava Hall and a past member of UTAG UG Executive Committee. Now, let me tell you something interesting about her. With an impressive portfolio that boasts of over national community, her influence extends beyond publication. as she serves as an editor and reviewer for several esteemed journals. Now I can go on and on. So please help me to welcome Professor Benedicta Ofosu-Mensah to tell us how Galamsey is affecting our environment. Please keep clapping for her until she gets here. And just a little one. PhD is better than any passport. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. The Pro Vice-Chancellor, the Registrar, the Vice-Chancellor, the Registrar, the Pro Vice-Chancellor for Academic and Student Affairs, the Pro Vice-Chancellor for Research, Innovation and Development, distinguished guests, esteemed faculties, students, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. Good afternoon. It is of a great honor that I stand before you today on this illustrious day of scientific renaissance of Africa, here in this prestigious University of Ghana, to give Ghana small-scale mining in Ghana and the way forward. Today, we celebrate the triumph of science and innovation across our beloved continent. However, as we honor our achievements, we must also confront the pressing challenges that threaten our environment, our health, our future. Chief among these is the environmental impact of illegal small-scale mining, often called Galamsey. The hidden scars of illegal mining. Small-scale mining, often referred to as Galamsey, has become a pervasive issue in Ghana. Whilst it provides livelihood for many, it also leaves behind trails of destruction that undermine the very foundation of our nation's prosperity. It is imperative that we understand the breadth and depth of this issue, from forest degradation and water contamination to soil pollution and climate change. Forest and land degradation. Illegal small-scale mining is key driver of deforestation, leading to the loss of precious forests. These forests are homes to diverse species and crucial in carbon sequestration. The clearing of forests for mining activities destroy habitats, threatens biodiversity, and disrupts ecosystems. Deforestation accelerates climate change as the carbon in these trees, when released into the atmosphere, causes change in the climate. Furthermore, the loss of vegetation exacerbates soil erosion, leaving the land degraded and unproductive. In 2022, about 19,000 hectares of cocoa farms were destroyed as a result of illegal mining. These somehow contributed to the decline in cocoa production in Ghana. In 2020-2021 cropping season, Ghana recorded 1.4 million tons of cocoa. We saw a reduction of cocoa to just 500,000 tons in 2023-2024 cropping season. This is quite significant, from 1 million to just 500,000. A report by World Resource Institute shows that Ghana is losing its forest at 60% rate, faster than any country in the world. If a tree is cut and burned, 1 ton of carbon is about 3.5 tons of CO2 or carbon dioxide. These just tell us how much CO2 that is released when our forests are cut down. Water pollution. Our rivers and streams, vital sources of water for drinking, cooking, and irrigation, are becoming contaminated by illegal mining effluent. The discharge of heavy metals and other pollutants into water bodies has resulted in widespread water pollution. These contamination affect aquatic life and poses severe health risk to humans, leading to issues of cancer and developmental challenges in children, just to mention a few. As one of my colleagues who handle issue of effects of illegal mining on health. The Pra and Cobra and Brim rivers, once lifeline for communities, have turned into conduits of poison, endangering the health and livelihood of thousands of Ghanaians. Now, just to show us how Pra used to be like, on your left is the original state of Pra or River Pra. And we can see what Galamsey has done to this precious resource. Soil pollution, the silent poison. Our soil, the bedrock of agriculture and biodiversity, is under siege. Illegal mining practices involved the use of toxic chemicals such as mercury and cyanide. These substances pollute the soil, rendering it infertile and hazardous. Fertile farmlands are transformed into barren wasteland, incapable of supporting crops. These not only jeopardize food production, but also endangers the health of communities relying on these lands for subsistence. Research shows food crops accumulate these toxic substances and also poses health risk. Now, as you enjoy your banku, as you enjoy your fufu, plantain chips, plantain slice, research shows that these foods or foodstuffs contain significant level of toxic elements or heavy metals. That is why we should all be concerned, because whatever we put out there comes back to us. Accra may be far from any illegal mining activity, but we should all know that most of our foodstuff comes from the hinterland. Some of them come from the very sites where these activities are ongoing. Research done by one of my students, PhD students, close to illegal mining site, has revealed that Some of these foodstuffs, common among them is plantain and cocoyam leaf, what we refer to as contemporary, contains significant level of heavy metals, lead, chromium, cadmium, nickel, iron. And when we subjected these to further analysis, it shows that the health risk was very high as the hazard index was high. This means that our exposure to these elements put us at risk of developing cancer and other health-related issues within our lifetime. Climate change, a worsening crisis. The environmental destruction posed by illegal mining contributes significantly to climate change. Deforestation and soil degradation releases greenhouse gases, while the disruption of water bodies alter local climate. These changes manifest as more frequent and severe weather events, unpredictable rainfall pattern, and rising temperature. We can all attest to the fact that just few months ago, somewhere in March, Accra witnessed quite a significant heat waves that even the market indicated that the level of AC sale had gone up significantly. Climate change is real, and our activity will only exacerbate or worsen the situation. And that is why it is important that the issue of illegal mining should be of concern to everyone, including you and I. The impact of agriculture is profound, with farmers facing reduced yield and increased vulnerability to climate-related shocks. These threaten food security and livelihood, particularly in the rural area. The way forward. Now, having indicated some of the few impacts that illegal mining, commonly called Galamsey, poses to the environment, it is time for action and a call for action. Ladies and gentlemen, as we reflect on this soberly reality, it is clear that we must take decisive action to address the environmental impact of illegal small-scale mining. And here are some few points that we should take into consideration. One, the political will to stop illegal mining. Yes, the political will to stop illegal mining. And these cut across all political or all government. Two, there is a need to strengthen regulations and enforcement. It is imperative to enhance stringent regulations to curb illegal mining activities. These include increasing surveillance, posing severe penalty for violators, and ensuring accountability at all levels. Three, promote sustainable mining practices. It is important that we encourage the adoption of environmentally friendly mining techniques that minimize the harm to the environment. These include the use of safer alternatives to toxic chemicals and the implementation of proper waste management practices. 4, provision of alternative livelihood. There is a need to support communities relied on illegal mining by providing alternative livelihood activities. These may include training programs in sustainable agriculture, ecotourism, and other viable economic activities. 5, awareness creation. It is important, ladies and gentlemen, that we create awareness campaign to educate the public on the environmental and health impact of illegal mining. There is a need to also empower communities to take up collective action against illegal mining activities and protect the environmental stewardship. Just to mention that someone indicated that a farmer who cultivates land for a long time, let's say an acre, at the end of the cropping season, gets less than 50,000 Ghana cedis per the entire season per acre. That same farmer is offered 100,000 Ghana cedis by a miner to lease his or her land. There is a temptation to lease that land to the Galamsey, and the land is gone for good. Now, what the public is not aware is the environmental cost to these practices. The farmer gets these 100,000 and forfeits his land for the rest of his life. Few years later, that same farmer will have to spend more than the 100,000 to treat cancer, liver failure, kidney failure. So we can see that the environmental cost sometimes is far more than the economic benefit. And that is why awareness creation is very important. Investment in research and innovation is very important. There is a need to support scientific research and technological innovation to develop sustainable mining solutions. These include exploring new methods of mineral extraction that minimize environmental impact and investigating reclamation projects to restore degraded lands. 7, collaboration. It is important that we encourage collaboration between government, academia, industry, civil society to create a unified approach to tackling illegal mining. Partnerships are essential to sharing knowledge, resources, and practices. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, having heard about how the lands are being destroyed, this is a collective responsibility to tackle the issue of illegal mining. As we celebrate the Day of Scientific Renaissance of Africa, let us be committed to harnessing our scientific knowledge and collective will to protect our environment. The fight against the environmental impact of illegal mining is not just a battle for the government or environmental scientists. It is a battle for all of us. It is a battle for our health. It is a battle for our food security. It is a battle for our biodiversity and a battle for our future. Together, we can turn the tide against environmental degradation Together, we can ensure a sustainable and prosperous future for Ghana and Africa as a whole. Let this day mark the beginning of a renewed commitment to environmental stewardship, driven by science, innovation, and our unwavering resolve. Thank you very much.
And now let's keep clapping. Let's keep clapping. As a junior Y teacher, I am tempted to actually ask you questions. So the first one will be that how many alternative solutions did she proffer for Galamsey? How many? Let me see. You are not listening. Okay, 6, 7, 8, 7. Okay, clap yourselves. Indeed, you have been listening. And you know what? The fifth one for me stands out, which is about awareness creation, isn't it? Now we have the power, which is social media. Currently, we are streaming on all the UG platforms, and I would like you to write something that you have heard from here. But maybe you forgot something, and I picked something I want to tell you so that you can tweet about. So Prof says the issue of Galamsey should be the concern for you and I. And I believe it's a quotable quote that we can write, isn't it? So I'm giving you just a few minutes to see what you can do on social media, because there's power in social media. You're doing that? Okay, as you do that, from Benedicta to Benedict. And we have Professor Benedict Nilaye Calistego. He's from the University of Ghana Medical School. So who is he? He holds a postdoctoral fellowship in research methodology from the University of Michigan. He's an alumnus of the International Visitor Leadership Program on Global Health organized by the U.S. Department of State. He serves as a field supervisor for the Faculty of Public Health, Ghana College of Physicians, and a trainer and examiner in public health and community health for both the West African College and Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons. He's a former chapter chairman for Ghana and a faculty secretary for the Faculty of Community Health and West African College of Physicians. Now, I want to grant him more time to be able to talk to us about the effect of Galamsey relating to our health. Please help me with a big round of applause to welcome Professor Benedict Nilaye Calistego.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Madam VC Chair, Pro Vice-Chancellors. With your permission, permit me to stand on the existing protocols in the interest of time. The foundation has already been laid by my twin sister Benedicta. So I'll just go straight and talk about the health impacts of Galamsey. Mining is one of the most hazardous environments to work in. And small-scale mining is even more dangerous, as you can see from the visuals. These are pictures and videos taken from the field. A typical mining operation involves exposure of workers to a wide range of hazards, including extremes of temperatures, injuries from machinery, and other objects and falls. To look at this in a critical way, I decided to look at the various stages involved in the mining process and then the health impact of each of them. So the first one is the excavation and the grinding process, where they actually blast the rock to make it into smaller pieces, and then they dig it out and grind it. Now this is associated with a lot of noise, many times averaging in excess of 90 decibels. Now what is recommended by WHO as a standard is below 85. So this, with time, initially it will just create annoyance, makes you very angry, makes you restless. and it decreases work efficiency, but with time it leads to noise-induced hearing loss. There is also the issue of poor lighting. As they go down the tunnel, ideally they are supposed to have these helmets with flashlights. Many of them can't afford it, so they improvise. They buy the normal torchlight and they use tiger head batteries, and then they tie it with a rag. So within 30 minutes, the lights start dimming, and sometimes they stay down there for hours. So the eyes has to adjust to that dark environment. Over time, they come up with various eye problems, including what we popularly call the minus nystagmus. They are unable to coordinate vision. And then they also have a lot of physical injuries. These physical injuries range from trauma to the eye and other various body parts. And our research shows that the injury rates range from anything between 5.3 to 0.5 per. So there are a lot of injuries. Now these injuries typically result from them being hit by fallen objects, or sometimes the collapse, especially during lives are lost. So that's for excavation and grinding process. What you are watching now is the washing. I'm not there yet. But you come to the 15th process, you saw the dust that was being generated, and you realize that they were not wearing any protective mask. So they inhale, and these are all inhaled. They tend to get settled in the lungs, causing damage to the lung and making them more susceptible to conditions. And with time, they develop a chronic condition known as pneumoconiosis. It's just a condition that the architecture of the lung is destroyed, and so it becomes difficult for them to breathe, and it's a persistent problem, and it can be life-threatening. Now, these heavy metals that are released are also known to be carcinogenic. In other words, they have the potential to cause cancers. Cancer of the skin, the bladder, and the lungs. And they are also very toxic to the nervous system. Now, the washing process, you realize they are using their hands, bare hands at that. So they mix it, the oil with water, and then they run down the gradient with the intention of concentrating those rags in there. In the process, they will pick up all sorts of pathogens that are likely to cause diarrheal diseases, and they are also at risk of the soil-transmitted ailments, what we commonly call worm infestation. And then comes the amalgamation process, where they mix the concentrated gold with mercury. And again, they use their bare hands. Now, as you can see, they are squeezing the mercury to make sure that nothing is lost. Mercury is such an essential commodity to them, and it's very expensive. So they squeeze it out and make sure nothing is lost. Now, what happens is that when you are exposed to mercury, even in minute quantities, the health effects are disastrous. Mercury is considered by the World Health Organization as one of the top 10 chemicals of public health concern. Its effect cuts across all age generations. It has effects on the nervous system, the digestive system, the immune system, the lungs, kidney, and eyes. And even the child in utero, the unborn child, is not spared. So children are born with deformities. The speech of people are impaired, their hearing can be impaired, their vision can be impaired, and their gait, how they walk, can be impaired. So they are not able to even walk in a straight line. Now, these are the activities related directly to the mining activity. Let's look at activities or impacts that are not directly related to the mining processes. The first is the issue of water and sanitation. We saw the visuals from the earlier speaker. Now, we did some work in Kejetia, and not the Kumasi one, but there is a mining community in Upper East called Kejetia. And we realized there were about 200 inhabitants, and we realized that every single one of them used free range. The field was their place of convenience. So you go there and you ask for the gents or the ladies, and they'll tell you the whole field is yours. Choose a portion. And then 70% of them depended on surface water, rivers, ponds, and the water that collects in the Galamsey pits. The water that collects in those pits are used for bathing and for brewing pito. This water contains heavy metals. We tested the water they were drinking, and it tested positive for coliform bacteria, which signifies the presence of fecal matter. Ladies and gentlemen, the good Lord in his wisdom had a reason for putting the mouth and the anus miles apart. So if man inadvertently brings them together, then there's a problem. And so let me remind you, when we go for weddings, we are told what God has put together, let no man put asunder. But when it comes to public health, what God has put asunder, let no man or woman put together. So that is the issue about water and sanitation. Their water is polluted, and so they are at risk of various diarrheal diseases. Let's talk about the issue of sexual health. Most of these miners are migrants. That Kejetia community, most of them migrated from Ashanti. That's why they named the place Kejetia. They have gone to somewhere near Bolga, and they are mining. They don't have their families there. They don't have their spouses there. And so when they need to satisfy their sexual desires, they prey on the young girls in the community. Now, the monies they make from this Galamsey activity is enough to lure the young girls because times are hard. And because these ladies are usually poverty-stricken, they are unable to even negotiate safe sex. And so they are at the risk of HIV and other sexually transmitted infections. And then they are also at risk of pregnancies, which are usually unplanned and unwanted. They may attempt abortions in an unsafe manner, and so they end up with unsafe abortions. And just to give you an example, there was a 22-year-old boy we spoke to. And at the time we were talking to him, he had already had 9 girlfriends. And for him, he felt very safe because according to him, he only has 1 girl at any point in time. He was practicing serial monogamy. But little did he know that he was exposing himself. And the truth of the matter is the people we see in the mines, they are the small fishes. They are the big fishes elsewhere. Let's talk about psychosocial health. Most of them are very aware of the going into that pit on any day may be the last day they are living, and they live with that fear. And so they have a lot of anxiety, they have a lot of stress. And even because of that, they can't even plan to work their way out of poverty. We spoke to a young man and he told us, let me say this in an account. He says, Galamsey Sika wasn't sure. To wait, you spend as you make. There is no room for planning. You save it and you die and somebody else enjoys it. So these people work hard and they spend hard. And so they remain there in poverty. And it's a lot of psychosocial stress. Now there are others. The issue of nutrition, the sort of food they eat. We've been told about how the environment is contaminated and how that would affect their diet. Then we have the indirect health impact resulting from the pollution of our water bodies and the atmosphere. It's insightful to know that all these impacts we have talked about do not only affect the miners themselves, but it affects the immediate communities they operate in and the larger community. You may sit in Accra and say, oh, there is no mining in Accra. The next time you are enjoying your tilapia, be mindful. Mercury bioaccumulates in such fishes. So these health impacts are not limited. The members of the community face it. And over time, we will have to start importing water because our health would be at risk. What is the way forward? It's useful to note that small-scale mining is a bread and butter issue. People's livelihood depend on it. Those engaged in it are very much aware of this danger, but they are willing to make ends meet or die trying. And this should be borne in mind whenever we are coming up with policies or measures to control. And let me say that it is a mafia. I mentioned earlier that the miners you see are just the small fries. During our work, we went to a particular community several times. We couldn't even find one miner. Somebody hinted us, go talk to the assemblyman. We met him at 5 a.m. and we recruited over 103 illegal miners just that day. It's a mafia. And this mafia includes traditional leaders, it includes political leaders, it includes men of the security agencies. So when you target the small fish and you leave the big men, you haven't achieved anything. How do they work? When you are entering any of their sites, they have 2 checkpoints. Between the first and second checkpoint is about 50 meters. That gives them enough time to alert those in the pit. So by the time they will stop you at the first checkpoint, waste a little time, stop you at the second checkpoint, those there would have escaped. So you get there and the security agencies won't find anything. So what is the way forward? Let me share something that has worked in about 5 Latin American countries. Most of these, it takes place of bigger mining company. They acquire these concessions, and at any point in time, they are not mining on the entire concession. So the illegal miners go to the corners of the concessions that are not being mined, and then they ply their trade. So what has been done in these countries is that the large mining companies try to, quote unquote, employ these illegal miners. But there is a ceiling. Once they employ, they won't admit new ones. And what they do is they then regulate their activities. It becomes a win-win situation because the method they use is able to extract just gold. Then the large mining companies would acquire the tailings, and then they use cyanide to extract the remaining 70%. So at the end of the day, the illegal miners are getting the money they would get because the large mining companies pay them off. And the large mining company also gets the tailings, but they are more regulated by government. And so the issue of sustainability and land reclamation is achieved. So that is something we can think about. The other thing to realize is that one of the dangers associated with illegal mining is the use of mercury. So our universities, our higher institutions of learning, Environmental Protection Agency, we should start thinking of mercury-free, high-yield mining. I know borax have been tried in some jurisdictions. I don't know how effective it is, but we should start thinking of mercury-free ways of mining so that we would be able to spare ourselves the effects of the mercury. Having said all that, we have to realize that to be able to achieve any success, we require political will. We cannot overemphasize that. So in conclusion, Galamsey, as is being practiced in Ghana, is an existential threat. It poses severe health challenges not only to those directly involved, but also to communities near and far. Even the unborn generations are not spared as they are born with deformities which can be traced directly to the effects of these unchecked and uncontrolled activities. The solution lies in real political will to end this, not just mere rhetorics. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it is not just mere rhetorics. And I'm sure that you're feeling something, and that tells that the issue about Galamsey is not just for the government. You and I, can do something about it. And it starts by us understanding what it means. Thank you so much, Prof. In fact, today I have learned something new that I haven't even thought about. That Galamsey actually has an effect on young girls and their sexuality. And that means that everyone indeed is involved. But no, I do not want you to get sad. We are going to go into our panel discussion. But before that, we have some music to enjoy. And before that, we also have a spoken word. But before that, it is the last keynote speaker. And now let me introduce him to us. He's Professor Richard Ni Okai Ayeti. Who is he? He's a fellow of the African Nutrition Leadership Program, the Yale University Global Health Leadership Institute, and Brown University International Advanced Research Institute. He's currently a visiting professor at the University of Sheffield's Center for Health and Related Research. In 2022, Professor Ayeti was elected as a Fellow of Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences. His research on a wide range of issues intersects with human nutrition, public health, food systems, and public policy across the entire life course. His research and practice targets the well-being of young children, adolescents, and women in reproductive age. His research has answered local and global questions on dietary intake, nutritional values of individuals and population, food systems, diet, overweight, and diet-related diseases. In 2017, Professor Ayete led the study to understand the impact of exactly what we are talking about today on food system in a mining community in Ghana. And he has since published and advocated for interventions that limit the impact of mining on human health and well-being in Ghana. And now, help me to welcome on stage Professor Richard Ni Okai Ayete. Please do it for him until he gets here.
Let me say, my name is Richmond. I have been called Richard in many places, including WAEC, writing my results and putting Richard there. Anyway, I want to stand on all the protocols and say good afternoon to you. And thank you to the organizers for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts on this. So usually I am a public health scientist. Today, let's pretend I am a social scientist. Because the earlier speakers have talked a lot about some of the issues that I'm going to raise, I think it was good that I decided that I would just tell you stories. Stories from my work and the encounters that I've had with Galamsey, and then I'll give you some reflections on that. So I start with this photo here, and just to put our conversation in context, that Galamsey is not a homogeneous occupation. It ranges from the very small scale people who are panning gold in rivers by themselves, to those who are having the big conglomerates like was described. So there's quite a diversity in that. As a result, you find a whole range of people who engage in Galamsey, from children to adults, from, as has been mentioned, politicians to the ordinary person. And then in the last few years, we've seen that it has evolved to the level where we are seeing big technology being applied to Galamsey. But I think it's important, and it has been mentioned, to indicate that there is a big role that Galamsey has on livelihoods. Livelihoods not just of individuals, but also the fact that as a country, we also generate a lot of our revenue from gold mining. I mean, Ghana was I judged as the 11th highest exporter of gold. So we are also involved in that whole ecosystem of generating money from Galamsey. So it's not something that we can wish away. We will have to confront it and find a solution to it, despite our knowledge that it has implications, we've been told, on the environment and then also on our lives. I would like to focus on the livelihood aspects of it. So let me tell you the stories I was talking about. So this photo is a very old photo. I had taken this in 2002 when I was a student of public health, and I was sent to Takwa for my field research. This was my first trip there, so that was very new to me, going to places where people were mining. By the way, at that time, my only experience of Galamsey was on TV, and in the news you would see the police chasing after Galamsey miners. But when I was in Takwa, right across from where my bungalow was, where I was staying and working, there was a place, a certain place where I would go and sit, and apparently there were all these young men who were Galamsey miners, and they come and sit there. So I took to having conversations with them, and I learned a few things from them. One was that it appeared these guys don't fear anything. Maybe it's linked to what you were saying. They know that today I can go to the mine, I'll come back with some money, I will blow it, and I'll go again. What was surprising for me was that they were not afraid to go again. They would always go back. And they were also mining on the concessions of big mining companies, and they were always being chased. And sometimes people were falling in pits. They were also working in places that were dangerous because they can't make it open. So they come and talk about all these issues. They also express the idea that when you get the money, you have to spend it. And they were not spending it by themselves. And I think one of the issues that has been raised is the fact that wherever there is money, it attracts all this transactional sex. I think that's an issue that was very important for me, because at that time I was carrying out my research on HIV. And that was an issue that was also a big issue in the Takwa area. By the way, migration had also been mentioned, and many of the miners there, at that time, I learned they were from northern Ghana. And there were generations of them who had come to settle there and had children there and lived there. And some of them haven't even gone back to where they came from. I visited some of the mines where they were getting the ore. This picture particularly came from right along the highway into town. And there was no fear in them for doing that at that time. They just also were the ones who had money in town. If anybody wanted money, if you want to borrow money, you go to the Galamsey guys. They were the ones who you go to. I gathered that even in these communities, one of the things that was happening was that they were not only mining in the fields, they were also gathering the ore, packing them in sacks, and bringing it to the community. So there was one community I was collecting data from, and almost every house had bags of ore that was there. What I didn't know was whether they were working on it at home or they were taking it somewhere. But almost every house looked like they had money packed somewhere that they were using. But this was back in 2001. Fast forward about 2 decades later, I was supervising some students. Benedict, you said you went to Michigan. I was supervising some early career people at Michigan. So When I had completed that process, they gave me some money. And this was around a time when Galamsey issue had become very important. So I decided that let me study Galamsey and how it's linked to food systems, because that's my area. A lot of the conversation at that time was on Galamsey and the environment and water systems, but there was very little that was being done in food systems. So we designed an interesting study, interesting in the sense that we wanted people to be able to freely express their thoughts and knowledge on the questions we're going to ask them. And we thought if we just sit in front of people, sometimes they don't tell you what you want to hear. So what we did was we got very inexpensive camera phones and we gave it to the respondents and we say, go into your community, bring us as many photos as you can take with the camera phone. When you finish and we interview you, the phone is yours. Now that was very interesting for them because it was free phones. But when they came back, what we did was then we asked them, choose 5 of the photos and tell us the story between what you are showing us and its link with food systems. And those are some of the photos that I'm showing here. And I'll tell you a few things about this photo. So let me see. Image 1. Image 1 is this is what the miner or the person who took the photo said. This photo is a mining pit dug right behind my house. It is deep. People keep falling into the pit every day. At least I have seen 5 dead bodies, both adults and children retrieved from this pit. But I took this photo particularly to provide evidence of how a large part of my subsistence farmland has been degraded by the miners. That's the first photo. There's a similar story related to the second one. Let's talk about image 3. Due to Galamsey mining and the difficulty in growing food, our diets have changed. Now there are instant noodles, cowbell coffee sachets, and many canned foods like tomatoes, fish, and other vegetables. I took this photo to illustrate these foods. These processed foods are very, very new to our community. They are now eaten by both adults and children. The implication being that they didn't trust the foods that they are growing because they knew that or they perceived that the heavy metals have been taken up into the food system and they were worried about it. And we get a similar story from number 4. Number 4 says, with Galamsey and its impacts on smallholder farming, we are in an interesting time. We've entered a time where fresh fruits and vegetables are highly expensive than processed foods. This one is long, but the essence of this is that they were even not trusting the food that is grown in the community. They would rather prefer food that is brought on market days from other communities. And the impact of that is that then food became very expensive. I talk about the water one. Let's talk about number 6. This photo used to be a fish pond that produced fresh fish for the community. The Galamsey miners pumped contaminated mercury water into the pond and killed all the fishes. We now travel elsewhere to buy fresh fish like tilapia. It's now very expensive to access fresh fish. There used to be about 30 acres of land at both sides of the fish pond. That land has also been destroyed. There's varied impacts beyond the environment. There are also livelihood issues that are coming out on this. I will skip these pictures, but just to mention that we've published this and it's really attracted a lot of attention in our community of research. Then this photo actually comes from an exhibition that we held after we collected the data. So we didn't want to just carry out a publication on this and then that's it. So what we did was we organized a community exhibition at a municipal assembly. And we invited chiefs, community leaders, community members, and they came to look at this. And you should be there to see how people felt about this. They were really unhappy about this. And yet some people also who were invested in it, this is my opinion, they thought that they didn't like the way the Galamsey had been banned. They wanted government to allow them to do it in a safe way. So you see, there's a struggle that is going on. It's not just an issue of it is bad, let's do something about it, but the people are also looking at their livelihoods. By the way, we also assessed food security, and this is a community in the eastern region, not in a place where you would say food security should be a problem. But we realized that there were important issues of food insecurity. So these bars indicate people's perceptions and how they felt about being able to access food. About 45% said they were worried about not having enough food. Some were eating foods that they disliked. Some ate fewer times per day. Now, you can measure some of these things in many communities, but in that community, we were surprised that they were having those kinds of situations in a place where farming is their livelihood. Now, I think this is the last photo I'll show. I took this picture in the Western region. I was coming back from interacting with cocoa farmers on a sustainability project that I was working on. And while there with the farmers, there was a lot of things that I learned. And then I saw what was happening in this photo. So actually, this was a place where people were mining right by the road into town. And it was early morning. Just when we got there, we saw people running out because they had heard that the security forces were coming. Actually, they work in the night. They go there with their generators and everything. They work during the day. When you go there, you won't see them. But these were the things that I learned from the farmers. So they were struggling to find hired labor because they couldn't compete with Galamsey. The young men don't want to go and do by day. I hope you know what by day is. They didn't want to go and do by day. They want to rather engage in Galamsey. So the farmers were struggling, and maybe that's the reason why these days we are struggling with the cocoa production. There are a lot of other factors involved as well. I heard this over and over again from other communities that I interacted with farmers on. In addition to that, I also heard what has been mentioned about the fact that farmers were now giving away their lands because the upfront lump sum money that were being offered to them was too attractive to resist. By the way, some of them were taking loans between 50 and 100% to every year work on their farms. Very high rates. So not everybody could afford it. But when someone brings you that amount of money, then it becomes too good to resist. Now, apart from the farms, you would also see that there were issues with children going to school because they were also involved in the farming. So these in the Galamsey. So these were issues that were coming out based on just interacting with the farmers on a totally different issue. Now, I would like to play you a video, and this is a video that's already online. It's coming from a documentary, and it talks about another dimension of it. So, can we start the video up there? It's a very short video.
Children as young as 7 get involved. carrying, crushing, and washing ore. The problem is not only the risk of abuse, nor the normalization of not attending school. It is also the exposure to toxic mercury used to extract the gold. When interviewed, they don't seem to.
It's okay. Thank you. The audio is not very good, but there are two things I would like to point out here. Again, emphasizing the fact that a lot of children are involved in this process. And also the fact that because they are involved in that, they don't have any role modeling. This young person was asked, Akrachi for ni kromo has say, teacher for no munya akrachi for. And his response was, a teacher for no kra almost Galamsey ni bi. So I will end on the note that there are a number of issues that I've raised in this. One of them is the issue of food insecurity. Galamsey is, bringing out these issues around food insecurity that we need to pay attention to. The barriers to schooling is also very real and has been highlighted in this. But also child safety and child protection is also an important issue that is involved in this. You mentioned, one of my colleagues mentioned the fact that women are not able to negotiate safe sex. But there's also the idea of children not being able to negotiate safety or even have a decision making in this process. And they are easily taken advantage of. But also the fact that we see how Galamsey is impairing livelihoods. I think that the social issues that I have mentioned are important, but much of what we have been doing when it comes to Galamsey has focused on the environmental aspects, on the health aspects. I'd like us to think of the issues I've raised, which are sort of hidden in plain sight. We have to prioritize them, and that's what I'll leave you with. Thank you.
Let's keep at it until he sees. Thank you very much, Professor Richmond Aiti. Professor Richmond Aiti. Thank you very much. All right, please let's clap for him again. So if you're wondering where you are today, we are at the celebration of the Day of Scientific Renaissance of Africa. We have been discussing the topic Galamsey, preserving the environment and protecting the future. It is wonderful to see that we have quite a number of us who are youth here. We have a lot of action to take, and we can do better. We can save this situation. It means that we have to take the matter to the grassroots. We have the power of social media, and it can do a lot. It means that we can actually communicate what we are hearing here today to those who are not here. It means that we can go back and change mindsets. It means that we can rethink about what we determine as economic development so that we can preserve our environment and ensure that the future is safe for us. I know that you're ready for something that I promised you, isn't it? So we are going to have a panel discussion, but before that, there is a musical performance. But before that, I am happy to introduce Monica Ajay, who is here to give us a beautiful rendition of spoken word. Please help me to welcome Monica with a big round of applause.
Fitiedu. Ano, ene fitia bomofoyo. Misinsio, enadane pukokoyo. Beneath the golden gleam of Ghana's sun lies a land rich with history, a tale just begun. A land of lush greens and sacred rivers once pure. Now a forest falling to axes and machines as the rivers run with a deadly hue and immature. To Galamsey we are owed our due, as mercury and cyanide taint what we once knew. I cry, oh, I cry, my beloved unborn. But I am one with nature in tears, so you see it not. I pry my fettered youth, why my eyes aren't clear these days, for my eyes have been reddened with the very soils that taint and birth me my ways. Eja, me nunume, for this is not amusing. For thee, many throats whose thirst I quench, I shall stay forever, longing for a drink. O thee, many arable lands whose soil I tender, shall stay forever poisoned, not my agenda. Even O thee, narcissist, your image shall no longer be cradled in my refraction. For a soil once fertile, a river once pure, now barren and bruised to the very core. Eja mindunume, for I am pained. My very own have dealt bitter with me. Yase, any bria and soja, but see my eyes as pontifufu. My eyes have been reddened as Galamsey looks on with impish glee. My eyes in Pra, my eyes in Ofin, my eyes in Brim, my eyes in Ankobra. O ye fettered youth, I celebrate thee today. I say thank you for watching me bleed and looking on aloof. For that, I say thank you very much, dear one. You have done very well. But mark ye my words, for after me there shall be no other. Hear me wail, my people, for I am being choked with lather. Save me, oh, save me, my people, for water is life. If only we'll stand hand in hand on this day of scientific renaissance of Africa for a future we want and the Ghana we want. To educate, legislate, enforce, and inspire, to preserve an environment and protect our future. To ensure a greener Ghana is what we desire. Please protect the greens, protect the gold. For a future yet untold is ours to make, take, and uphold. Thank you.
Let's do it better. And I am happy to announce that Monica actually works with the Office of Research and Innovation and Development of this university. Thank you so much, Monica. Now, I promised you something again, and I believe that now you will trust me. Okay, so we have a very beautiful performance, and I would like to read before it is done. The high impact dance is a choreographed dance piece meant to reflect the relationship between Ghanaian dance forms and other West African dances. The dance begins slowly with songs and graduates into an exciting and troubling dance. This dance has been chosen specifically for this day to celebrate and reflect how the environment is destroyed through the small and seemingly harmless ways and later becoming a full-blown disaster. Therefore, all must contribute in similar ways to save our environment. Ladies and gentlemen, Madam Chair, I present to you Blaza. Please, let's keep clapping. Let's keep clapping. And Blaza was brought to us by Ghana Does Assemble. Now we are almost at the end. So if you're thinking of leaving us, please hold your seat. Remember that the Vice-Chancellor is here and she's watching. So please. Okay, I did promise you a panel discussion. And now it is time for us to hear and discuss all the issues that had been mentioned here today. However, you also have the power. At the end, we will invite you to ask all the pertinent questions that have been on your heart. In no particular order, I would invite my panelists to join me and take any of the seats beside me. We have Professor Gladys Nyanko Ansa from the Department, Kingsley Amakwa Buedu. He's a managing partner and co-founder of Amakwa Harry Donko. He's a broadcast journalist and the Journalist of the Year. Then we have Mr. Bright Frimpong, a PhD student. And then we have Professor Gordon himself. Please welcome him onto the stage. And now I shall join you. I was going to ask for a mic, but I was thinking that our voices are loud enough. Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Hi, how are you all doing? Are you ready? I can imagine how you have been feeling all this while the presentation was ongoing. And I would like to start with you, Erastus. Also because you have been there, you have captured the stories, you have told the stories about, briefly introduce yourself. As you also take on the question, how can the media support in the fight against Galamsey? And personally, if you are to do something about Galamsey, what exactly are you going to be targeting?
Well, thank you very much. My name is Erastus Asaredonko. I'm an investigative environmental journalist with a multimedia group, and I've been reporting on the impact of illegal mining on livelihoods, environment, and public health since 2014. Now, let me say that today, the lifeline of our very life, existence of agriculture has been poisoned to the extent that farmers who are located along all the major rivers in Ghana now, talk about Ankobra, talk about Brim, Tano, Bia, wherever, cannot farm with a major resource that lies close to them. In fact, farmers have to carry water miles, about 8 miles, into farms to water their crops. And it's affecting agriculture. If you remember, recently, Cocoa Board had to return a syndicated loan of 1.3 billion because they cannot vouch that they will get quality water to engage in their activities for the cocoa. So it's affecting every part of it. In fact, not to go back into what the other speakers have talked about, but in my documentary Poison for Gold, which is currently on YouTube and has been showing on Joy News, I documented, and in fact, we did some testing of all the major rivers across Ghana where we fetched samples. And I have a copy of the results here, and it shows high levels of heavy metals. And mind you, heavy metals, we are talking about the poisonous chemicals they use in mining, but we should also forget that naturally occurring heavy metals also exist in the soil. And so whilst they turn the sediment in the water up, and whilst they dig, they introduce some of these arsenic, chromium, lead, and other naturally occurring heavy metals into our major rivers. And so we are talking about arsenic in River Oda, River Brim, and if you look at the WHO standards of 0.050, we are seeing 0.364 milligrams per liter, 0.372, 0.305. And these are samples we fetched from across the country. If you look at the Ghana Water Resources Commission data of turbidity across the country for 2023, at the Ankobra at Pristia is measuring around 8,000 NTU. When we went to Dabuase, where they pump and treat water for Takrady, turbidity was around 1,800. Recently, the Ghana Water Company's own figures put it at 7,000 NTU. And that's what they are treating and pumping to homes across Takrady and its environs. I've been asking this question, that the treatment process they are using at the moment, is it able to lift heavy metals? The answer is no. I would say that you asked if I had the opportunity to change something. I would say that, well, we should consider whether it is worth mining in such a manner, in a haphazard, dangerous manner. Why can't we do the simple thing of mining responsibly? Where are all the agencies, the Minerals Commission, the regulatory agencies, the EPA? Why do we still have mining directly on water bodies? Today, Shamfan machines sit across all the major. I have traveled on the Ankobra for 4 hours from the estuary to Banso and Wolenzo, the Axim, the Nzima areas. And there are Shamfan machines directly mining on the water bodies. Same applies to Tano, the Brim in the eastern region. There are some sitting on it, or that punishable by 5 years. So why are we looking on and allowing people to mine directly on our water bodies? As for the forest reserves, and it states that the new LI states that the president now has the authority in the interest of the public to grant access to even protected forest reserves. And as we speak, 7 of them have been granted. Draw River is one of them, Boy Tunnel is one of them, Tanoanya is one of them. Mining has already started in parts of Draw River Forest Reserve in the Jurabanso area. So if we give nice speeches and we allow this to go on, let's take about 10 years from now. How many reserves would we have? And what impact will it have on agriculture and other livelihoods? So if I had the opportunity to change it, I would say, let's take a critical look. There should be a limit as to what we can do with mining. Yes, it's giving us money, it's contributing to our economy, but are we willing?
Is it worth to destroy our own lives at the detriment of the future? There will be no life, really. Professor Gordon, and I know because I can see you have taken a lot of notes, and being a professor as you are, I can see that a lot had gone into what you're about to show to us. So now the question is that we have seen and have heard some of the risk that is posed by Galamsey. What are some of these into details, and how can we prevent or protect ourselves from these?
Thank you for the question. The definition of a professor is somebody who knows more and more about less and less until they know everything about nothing. But Richmond, I like the narrative and the story. My story with Galamsey goes back to 1976. I was being convinced by a gentleman called Poznansky to do archaeology rather than zoology. So we went on an expedition. And we are by the river Ankobra, but we are warned we cannot use that water to wash because of the sixth form at the time. So we used Akpeteshi to wipe ourselves, alcohol bath. But given that we have little time, I want to point out that the University of Ghana has something called UG Space, where all our theses are collected. We have 444 theses on mining, illegal mining, Galamsey at the PhD and master's level. That's about 6% of all the theses we have produced. So it's not as if we have not studied the problem extensively. But the problem is very, very complex. Unfortunately, it seems a lot of the school students have left. But normally we talk about 4 dimensions: X, Y, Z, and time. But when you want to look at Galamsey, we are talking about 16 dimensions. And because of time, I cannot go through all. But we have to look at the scale of the operation, whether it's small, medium, or large. And we have small, fragmented, small, put together, because we do have allowance for people to do artisanal mining. I think it's 4 hectares, is that correct? 10 acres. They can, but what happens is they put them together and do 100 hectares. And that becomes no longer small scale, but rather large. We also have to appreciate that every region has a different impact on the environment. So if you're doing your mining in Boku area, which has got a lot of gold, or in the eastern region, the environmental impact will be different. We also mine not only gold, we also mine diamond. And diamond is also a serious impact on the environment. But even the gold, you have two types. You have the alluvial gold, but you also have gold nuggets. The type of mining, we have the chamfan, which operates in the water. You have the people panning. I saw in one of the videos a metal detector. They call it what? The holes everywhere in the farm, because they've used the metal detector to dig for what they hope is gold at that point. It also depends on a river valley, floodplain, on the beach. There's a rumor that came out that one of the rivers coming out, I think in the central region, there was gold in the sand at the beach. The people descended and did so much damage, causing erosion. The type of processing we saw in the videos, the pounding of the ore, wet washing, but we also have dry separation, where they basically throw it, the dust in the air, and the gold will fall closer to where they are, and the dust, the wind will take the rest of it away. We have the sensitivity of the area. We have what are known as biodiversity hotspots. The type of impact, whether it is acute, i.e., it causes extinction, or it is chronic. You have the bioaccumulation, the biomagnification. That is, as you take the heavy metals in, they don't leave your body. They accumulate in the fat. And it accumulates. And if it's a fish or animal and you consume it, you get all they have taken cumulatively. We also have where the environmental impact is taking place. We've mentioned air, the soil, surface water, but one of the biggest, the surface water is polluted, it seeps into the groundwater, and that groundwater goes through an aquifer. Then 10 kilometers later on, somebody has got a borehole, and they're sucking up that water. It's full of pollutants. When we talk about biodiversity, we are talking about different levels. We have genetic, species, ecosystems. At the level of the genetic, we've spoken about cancers. We've talked about birth defects. But we also have issues where there's modification of the genome by these chemicals. So the animal is no longer the animal that it should be. You have a frog with 5 legs. In certain parts of the world, you have a situation where instead of 50% male, 50% female fish, you have 90% female, 10% male, as a result of hormones which have entered the water from a human. We have changes in the biodiversity. You see, mosquito. So with the ponds of water, you get mosquito. There's another animal, the snail that is the host for bilharzia. So you get diseases which previously did not exist in communities, now coming there. The whole issue of land use, land cover change, the diversion of rivers, loss of wetland, forest loss of agricultural lands, they're all big issues. But one of the things that we don't put into the equation is that for the equipment to reach the mining site, they create a road. And once you create that road, it means that all sorts of other things happen. Illegal logging, because now they have access. I have a whole list of things to talk about the pollutants of mercury, cyanide, chromium, arsenic, but I'll just talk about dust. Where you have high dust levels in the atmosphere, it reduces the particle size. And let me say that all the points that have been made about the human body, they also impact every living animal One of the issues we've had in our work at the Institute is that when you go to a community and you want to take a blood sample, or you want to take hair, the people are afraid you're going to use it for, let's say, practices that are supernatural in nature. But what we have found is that if you can get a chicken or you can get a dog living in that community, because they're exposed equally as the human beings, that can be a proxy. End off with the issue of climate change, because climate change acts as an amplifier for native land is there, then there's a flash flood. All that is washed into a river. And you find that the people who are suffering most from the impacts of Galamsey include those who are downstream from the Galamsey work itself. Because all that includes rubbish comes down the rivers through the runoff and lands at a place where the people were totally innocent. They're not doing any of these things. So you find that a lot of the people who are supporting illegal mining think that they're not being impacted because they think it's far away. But the reality is that even as we are in this room, we are inhaling dust which emanated somewhere in the Kwewu area, contaminated with heavy metals, and we are taking it in. It goes to the sea. We have been working on microplastics, and a single anchovy, Keda schoolboy, can have up to 110 microplastics in that fish. What do? We grind it and make shito, and we eat. Madam, I'm done.
And I would say that some years back, Professor Gordon and I would sit on panels and discuss a lot about microplastics because then I used to work for a water company. And today it's amazing to see really the effect of Galamsey on the food chain. In fact, I am one of those people who say that usually when Galamsey is mentioned, I just feel very far away from it because I believe I am in Accra and it has nothing to do with me. But let me tell you, until I traveled and the roads that we used were destroyed, exactly as you said, by the tractors that were mining in those communities. And it was so difficult to ply the road. And that is when I realized that it is indeed my concern as well. Now the power is in your hands. I would like two people to ask questions. But before that, I would like to come to you, Professor Gladys Ansah. You deal a lot with languages. Now we have seen that Galamsey is happening at our local levels. How can we use a local language to ensure that people are understanding what the issue is? And maybe it's about the big English. How can we really break it down and speak to them and tell them about the effect of Galamsey?
Okay. We've been talking about the effects, big professors, environmental, climate change. What has language got to do with Galamsey? Professor Anderson is here. About 18 years ago, we were teaching an undergraduate class, English phonology. Then this young man in the class just raised his hand. Madam, what has a bird got to do with a toothbrush? I don't know if you get it. Birds have no teeth. So if you are talking about toothbrushes, of what concern is it for the bird? Environmental issues, how does it concern us? So far, all the people who have spoken have used language to do one main thing: to represent a certain state of affairs, what is happening. to give us facts about Galamsey. But that is not all language can do. We can use language to shape the way people think, to focus their thinking patterns in a particular way. The solutions we are preferring are behavioral. We are targeting the behavior. But if we want to target the behavior, if we want to achieve results, we must target the thinking patterns. If the thinking patterns change, if the thoughts change, the behavior will change. How does language come in? We can use language. As I'm speaking, I'm forcing you to think in a particular way. I am guiding your thinking processes. We can use language to frame the solutions we are looking for. And we can use language to cause people to think in a way that will cause their actions to change. We use English, not a bad idea. But Nelson Mandela said, if you want to talk to a man, if you want to talk to the mind of a person, speak in the language they understand. But if you want to speak to their hearts, speak to them in their mother tongue. So speak to the people in the language they understand best, which is the local languages. There are proverbs in the languages. There are idiomatic expressions. Our identities are embedded in these expressions. I grew up in part in Achimebuakwa, Galamsey. But in those days, the Brim wasn't like it is now. And many Achimebuakwas pride themselves in Achimkwa Onum Brim. Now I say the slogan has to change. It has become Achimkwa Onum Afro. Do you know what Afro is? Mad. If you want to speak to the heart of the people, speak to them in the languages that they understand best. And I won't say, the people who do Galamsey, they are not Englishians. They are Ghanaians. Speak to them in a language that will touch their hearts. So if you ask what languages to use, what local languages can do, they can target behavioral change, thinking change, change in thinking patterns. Get slogans. See, that's what advertisers do. They use language to tune your mind to think in a certain way so that you will behave in a particular way, buy what they are selling. Let's use the language resources of our rich cultural languages to get to them. They understand it. Use proverbs, use idiomatic expressions, use whatever, slogans. In Akan, you call it efne. Create efne and let people use them. So if you asked me, that's what we can do. Thank you.
And indeed, I believe that we need a mindset change, and language is a key of mindset change. May I now invite two questions, and I would like them to go to our two middlemen who are sitting here. I would like to tell you their area of specialization so that you may tailor your questions. But however, you can ask any question that you want. So we have a lawyer around here. Then we also have a student on the environment. So indeed, we have all the experts here, those in the middle. So let's see, do we have any questions? Yeah, okay, all right. Should I walk to you with the mic? Okay, good. We will take two questions. So if there's anyone, all right, is there a lady? Yes, I'm biased for a lady, so I'll pick you, okay? All right.
So my question goes to my friend. I told him I'll be coming here. And
So that's Kinsley. All right.
yes, Kinsley. And Professor Nyanko, thanks so much for what you just indicated. I have seen a particular student culture in Ghana, and it's a culture of impunity. You are a lawyer. And this is a situation where individuals or group of persons who engage in illegal behaviors are not held responsible. The idea of an order came from above. Somebody broke the law, and those who must deal with the person should simply go and prosecute the agenda. But then they say order from above. As far as I'm concerned, this is one of the biggest issues of fighting against Galamsey. You are a lawyer. What is your take on this? Thank you.
Thank you very much. There was a program I went to at the British Embassy, and I happened to Mr. Erastus Donko was over there, and he had this presentation where he performed an interview on a researcher at Kean University, and he was a doctor, so he had the chance to interact with pregnant women who happened to deliver babies, and he realized that these babies were born still and they had certain deformities. And honestly speaking, until I went for that program, I wouldn't have known that the effect of these very toxic heavy chemicals had an effect on even babies in the womb. And I wanted to ask that there a way where researchers all across Ghana can make the public see the effects of these toxic chemicals? If a pregnant woman can actually give birth to a child that you wouldn't really consider a child because the child has 6 fingers or looks very, very different from what we would consider as a human being. So if there's a way, is there a way where students from the basic school, the primary school, and even in the communities can have a look at these impacts or effects of toxic chemicals or galamsey in general to human life? Yes. Please, my name is Quinote Esther.
Thank you very much. And I didn't know you would come and ask me a question here. Thanks very much. I will start by saying that we have four stakeholders primarily in this whole issue of natural resources and Galamsey or gather them and sell. And those four would be the person who controls the industry by virtue of Article 257, Clause 6. And that person is a president. And it's explicitly stated in the Constitution that all natural resources in their natural state is the property of the people of Ghana and is held in trust by the president for and on behalf of the people of Ghana. So it's the president who controls the resource. Then you have in Article 268 and 269, 268 says that 6 months after the coming into being of the Constitution, which would be, say, the 7th of July, 1993, commissions should be set up in respect of the relevant natural resources. So we have the Minerals Commission, we have the Forestry, the Water, and all that. And then we've just even set up that for the Petroleum Commission, and then now we have the bauxite and whatnot. And so those will be the managers, because the act says that they must be in charge of managing principles, coordinating, and coming out with all that policies and all that. So those are the managers. Then we have the owners. I've just talked about Article 257, Clause 6, that says that it belongs to the people of Ghana. So all of us are the owners. Then we have the user. And so the user from the 1800s, the ending of 1800s, has always been the foreigner who's coming in to mine. And those are the ones who are recipients of the large-scale mines. Then from 1989, we lifted the ban on mining, and then individuals, which are Ghanaians, could get into small-scale mining. The problem we've had is that we've always seen the sole responsibility as that of the government. That has been a problem. So we have not owned it. Reason being that Abang has always been the colonizer who came, and we didn't like him that much. We'll dress like him, speak like him, and all that. But we didn't like him because we thought he's come for something which is ours. So his responsibilities and the fact that he's taking the natural resources by the rule of severance, we don't want him, and then whatever belongs to him, we are not interested in that. And that has been the attitude. So now that we have taken it over, it is still not seeped into our consciousness that it is ours. We still think someone has to come and do it. Unfortunately, and I've lived in Takwa from about 86, I think, to about 91. My father was a judge there, so I saw a lot of them being brought to court. Some of the sentences were 10 years for handling gold, because before 1989, you couldn't even handle it, you couldn't import it unless it was a ban, all right? And the large-scale miners were doing it, and we felt, same thing. The outsider has come and is doing it, and why not us? That is why recently someone said, and it's trending, a person is finding himself in problem, that those, and let me use the account balance, that so you see, they still think it is not, someone is stopping us. And I like the question the young lady asked, because it is the effects are not vividly before us. And so when we don't have that, then the cartels will come in. And I mean, it is real. There are cartels, there are people. So it is good that the military that came initially, they've changed them and others are coming. Because the more you stay in a community as a law enforcer, the more you become friends with the people, and then there's that room for levels of influence. All right. So that is the main issue. And for a place like Ashanti region, by the way, there are 16 regions, 14 of them have mining activities, small-scale mining activities going on. And where you have small-scale mining activities, then there's a Galamsey going on. I am glad to an extent in terms of regulating it, that Greater Accra doesn't have these precious minerals. Because for here, the issue of who owns the land is really messy. Very messy, quadruple sales and whatnot is happening properly in Accra proper from as a lawyer. So if the gold was here, it would have been problematic. Now, for the 14 regions, 8 of them are purely Akan areas. Those Akan areas have the ownership, the alludia titles in the stools. Now, the occupant of the silver stool, being the Mampong, the Manhine of Mampong, said that he will not allow Galamsey to occur in his kingdom. That was it. So that is an authoritative figure with so much influence saying, not where I have my sphere of domain. And it didn't happen. I think we should involve the traditional authorities a bit more than we do. If we do that, then they will own the whole system, because there's a whole system. There are those who are washing their holes, and we have left out those who finance these operations. And those are not necessarily those who have any link with the soil, if so to put it. So they don't care whether it gets destroyed. So I think we should link the traditional authorities to it. because ownership, we know ownership of land in Ghana, 4 different groups, the stool skins as 1, the family as 2, individuals around the Cape Coast Castle and somewhere there, and then the government. Majority of these are owned by, the allodial title is owned by the stools and the skins. So if we can empower them, and those who already have that influence and power can put their foot down and say, not in my area, we would have solved some of the problem, not all of them, some of the problem, because we all know that, or we hear, I'm speaking as a lawyer, so I need to prove it. We hear that some of the system, the cartel includes the chiefs as well, isn't it? And so if those who are the paramount chiefs are saying not in my area, and they can bring the authoritative pressure to bear on those chiefs under them, then we'll be solving some of the problem. Thank you very much. I think I have too much to say. Thank you very much.
All right, Erastus, how are we ensuring that those informed children are so out there that the media, the same way you are able to carry all the political campaigns, will ensure that we are having these figures everywhere and people are seeing the effect of the thing? Next question.
Thank you. So, what the young lady spoke about is my documentary Poison for Gold, and it details with videos of babies who are actually deformed, and we have links to illegal mining. I worked on it with a lot of experts. Professor Sampini with the School of Medical Science, KNUST, has been doing some form of investigations with deformed babies and the link to illegal mining. Now, per tradition, we are not allowed to bury mothers who die with their babies. And so he has to be called in as a pathologist to separate the mother, the baby from the mother, so that they can be buried separately. And that's how come he got to know that the first baby had 6 fingers, 6 toes, a malformed head, and he wanted to understand why. And I've been following his work, and I had to bring him in to do these investigations to try to unravel what is happening. Now he picked the placenta, tested it, and wanted to understand it, because the placenta transports food and everything to the baby. So whatever you find in the placenta is in the baby. So he found high levels of arsenic, mercury, and the other one, the large-scale use, in there, cyanide. And so it was clear, because there are other research published which link heavy metals to the deformities in babies. Now he goes for the next autopsy and he finds the same thing. This time, legs were growing from the chest and other areas. And all these babies, 4 of them so far, and all these babies, they are kept at the KNUST even today. So if you want to go there and find out, you can find out. They are there. And all these babies were coming from Bebiani and Nyaso Bekwai, Dunkwao, some parts of the western region, Galamsey prone areas. So far, when I did the documentary, there were 4. Now he has found 2 more. So we have 6. And they are in jars at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Tech. What I'm trying to say is that there is an established link. All these things are coming from the Galamsey belt. Why don't we constitute a more bigger research nationwide to find out the extent of contamination and how this is affecting other women? During my work at Asakregwa, I found another one. This one had just 1 leg, no anus, no sex, and nothing. And it points to just one thing. Asankregwa is a major Galamsey point, and major rivers over there are highly polluted. So it is high time we treat this as very urgent. It is something that we have to bring academia, bring all the necessary stakeholders to do proper research, find data, and use the data to implement policies that will work for all of us.
You, as a communications person, I will say that we do, from all the discussions we've had today, have a lot of research. Maybe to answer you will be that can we have some of the students here come up with a project to really communicate all that the researches that have been done so that we can have campaigns that are like political campaigns. And we hold our leaders accountable as well. So if they do not fix the things, then we do not vote for them. It may
I
take
think
time.
I left something in there. Sorry about that. To answer your question directly, we have started a campaign. The
Okay.
Poison for Gold documentary has been translated into the Twi language.
Now there it
And
is.
we are now going from community to community, educating the women and showing it to them at the basic level. And so far it's been working magic with the people.
Thank you very much. So now we have been able to get the answer from him. All right, so we will take 2 questions from here. I want to remind you that we have Mr. Bright Frimpon here. He's a PhD student in environmental science, so we can direct some of our questions to him as well. All right, so 2 from here. You can come forward, or we have a mic. Perfect. Hi.
I'm Saudat Kamaruddin. I'm with Globally Green, and I'm an alumna of the University of Ghana. So, yeah, the question I wanted to ask is talking about the way forward. We mentioned awareness creation. Now, lots of us would be doing the social media campaign and all of that. But then one thing I wanted to find out is in order for us not to be intimidated, how can we go into these communities, those of us who want to take action, in order for us not to be intimidated, what approach can we use? Because we know that our chiefs and the other from above and all of that are kind of involved, and then sometimes you become discouraged when people say, hey, you are the one who wants to address such an issue. So
Right.
what kind of measures can we
Okay. So how can we empower those who want to take the conversation to the communities? We'll take the other question. There are 2 questions I see. Who else from this row? All right.
Thank you very much. My name is Elvis Batona. I'm reading MPhil Linguistics. So it's a question and a contribution. So I think the
Please
media.
make it snappy then.
Yes, the media have done a lot when it comes to campaigning against illegal mining. And then I think academia have also done a lot. If UG alone is producing 6%, you can consider the other universities and then we bring them together. But I think the major problem is government and then the constitution. So if the president says he's protecting it for us, that is one. Then the other ally says we are parts. Then the problem comes the order from, I think we'll all stand on the order from above now. Then chiefs are parts. Then there have been media documentaries where chiefs are crying, where assemblymen come to complain that they go out, they go into the field to even ask them who are they and then to sack them from the field. And then the law enforcement agencies, the police and the military, chase them away. So don't you think we need to have a look on the constitution? I think have a review or something. The powers to these executives is too much.
Thank you. So, Mr. Kingsley, it seems that we're on your case today on the laws. We will take, right? Do you want to take the first question that has to do with how do we ensure that we're empowering the youth or those who want to take the conversation to the communities?
Yes. Okay, so thank you very much. But before I answer the question, I want to use the opportunity to acknowledge Prof. Gordon, my professor and lecturer, and also have 3 of my academic supervisors here. And as a student, if I don't acknowledge them, we have Dr. Granting and then Dr. Nukweza. They may fail me, so I have to acknowledge them before they fail. So they are marking me as I sit here. Yeah, so I think the conversation has hovered around how we can empower the youth and other people actually to address the issue of Galamsey. And we've been looking at documentary and all others. But I also think that when you look at the presentations that were made by the various key the keynotes address that they gave, you realize that the Galamsey issue has really impacted significantly on our environment. And one area where I wish we should know, and the youth should know, while we have looked at mercury poison, because if you look at the heavy metals that we spoke about, we have made mention for the fact that if you look at the key heavy metals, the mercury is one of the toxic chemicals that are used in the amalgamation of the gold. Now, there are several strategic interventions that have been put in place to address the mercury situation. And if you look at the law, as our brother said, mercury is not illegal in Ghana. The use of mercury is not illegal in Ghana per the law. Even for the PNDC law 218, the use of mercury for artisanal gold mining was actually part of it, which was subsequently even incorporated into the Mining and Minerals Act 2006. So what is happening now is that the World Bank is putting in a lot of strategies to make sure that we phase out mercury even from the system, so that we don't use mercury in artisanal gold mining. So there are several projects that have come out, which are happening to be part of one project called African Environmental Health and Pollution Management Project. And we go to community, just like the lady was saying, to promote mercury-free technologies. So we teach the people how to use mercury-free technologies to be able to address the issue of mercury. Now, if you look at mercury, I'm throwing light on this because I'm part of a project that is actually trying to arrest the mercury situation. Mercury situation. So there's a project called African Environmental Health and Pollution Management Project. And what the project seeks to do is also to educate the communities, as I said. There's another one called Planet Gold, which also sits at the hub of EPA, which is also promoting, helping the youth, empowering them to understand how the machines or equipment work. It just uses a centrifuge technique to separate the gold without using the mercury. And then one other thing I may also want to add is the issue of the dugout pits. The dugout pits, which I think per the Minerals Commission report, we have about 10,000 dugout pits nationwide. About 10,000 dugout pits nationwide. And in 2019, we had about 19 people dying from dugout pits. In fact, I'm even a victim of this situation when I went to the field to take my data. And I happened just that the pit was not too deep. So I really freed myself. But I landed in the pit and then I broke my ankle. So even when I was given the opportunity to come here to even come and speak, I was asking myself whether I could wear a shoe. So I'm a victim of this Galamsey issue in terms of this uncovered pits and other things. So I think what the lady asked, there are a lot of ways that we are empowering the youth to be able to address the issue of Galamsey.
Okay. When the professor speaks.
No, it's not a question of the professor speaks. But I think the issue of entry into the community is very important. And as academics, sometimes we go in with an air of arrogance and entitlement. I'm a biophysical scientist. I deal with water, wetlands, and so forth, but I've worked a lot with social sciences. And the key thing is humility and respect. If you want to enter the community, don't think that you know everything. They have probably more to teach you than you have to teach them. The issue of birth defects, that 6 you recorded is a tip of the iceberg, because most of them, the babies never go to hospital, they are buried. And I'm sorry, Greater Accra has one of the biggest problems of Galamsey in sand winning. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Yes, you can clap. We had the issue of reviewing the constitution, and I think that he mentioned an airline And do you want to touch on that, Kingsley, briefly about the issue of reviewing our constitution to ensure that it is protecting our lands?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I try not to make it too political because it's a governance issue.
Okay.
Because we know how our politics have become too partisan, so that we would try to get something out of the narrative rather than solving the problem. Now, from the governance issue, I think our laws must incorporate, as I said, the traditional authorities. If the traditional authority has a stake in whatever activities happening, then we can now talk about whose responsibility it is to reclaim the land. Because someone mines it, he sells the gold, and it's gone. It is, but if for this area, we are, because you have probably a percentage in it, maybe 5% or whatever in it, and then when we do project finance as lawyers, we allocate risk. And so then whose responsibility is it to reclaim the land? I mean, it's a shame that you're conducting your research for PhD and you're injuring yourself and several. Yeah, but it's a big shame, you say. So if we can take care of how to reclaim the land and it's incorporated in our laws, and the traditional authorities have their skin in it or a stake in it, and it will probably be their responsibility, that would be one. If we can hasten the registration, because if I'm waiting and there's rate tapism, I find myself there because I want to mine. You see, but if we have registered it, if every one of them is registered, then it comes under the communal system, the community mining system. Then we're able to regulate it. And as I said, Otunfor said that the chiefs cannot convince him that something's happening in their forest and they don't know anything about it. So if they become part of it legally, then probably we'll be making headway.
Thank you.
And the issues about
the
order from above, again, governance but not politics. I think there was one forest reserve that it came out that it was being awarded to a mining company. And the noise was such, the level of the noise about it was such that the Minerals Commission boss came on GTV to say no. They made an application, but he told them it's a no-go area.
Yeah.
I think the power of the media is not loud enough. And I think we have to applaud our brother for the work he's done. And it's the resilience. And I said, I grew up in Takwa, so I know how resilient those who go down to mine are. Most of them think that's their only way of escape out of poverty. And it's like cocaine. So once you taste it, you can't stop. And my prof was saying that they don't even spend it well. I've seen instances where someone comes out of Thursday on a Thursday and he rents 2 taxis. One is carrying the hat, one is carrying the workers, and he's in the middle. By Wednesday, the man is finished. He's going about borrowing. And that's their lifestyle. So if we, but one thing I would add is that your clips are probably an hour or something long. If you can cut it into shorter, because at times you start watching it and then something will take your attention. So if you cut it down into shorter pieces and it registers, you see. And then whenever we have the chance to talk about this, let us bring it down to the level. And I'm glad about let's bring it down to our level so we actually appreciate it. Then we are part of it. Otherwise, it will be a lot of the research which are gathering that, and we're not practicalizing it. So I think these are because if there's an order from above, there will not be any evidence of such. But whatever there exists, the level of noise, and I think those in the media houses must join hands with people like Erasmus, so that it is so loud that you can't do otherwise. Otherwise, people get tired. I think I went to lecture somewhere, and that person was fighting it in, I think, Western region before this the Joboase issue happened. And he was complaining. He came to me, and I took him to another person, which I thought was influential. And all of a sudden, he wasn't interested anymore because he became who's the guy who sang this song? One Man Soldier. Amrado. He became an one man soldier thing. And if you have a whole system, a whole cartel, and you're one man, it becomes very difficult. At some point, you stop. And that's why I said he needs an applaud. So if we have a collective communal base of highlighting these issues, then it becomes difficult. Otherwise, the people are so resilient, they don't care whether they die. And they know that at this point they will die, so they will stop doing it. So we must have an equal measure of attention to it and the evils to it. And I think we'll be making headway whilst we repeal and amend portions of our legal framework.
Right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. Now, when you give the microphone to a lawyer, when you think that he was ending, he will start another one. So at this point, we would like to wrap up. Yes, I know you would love to ask questions, but let me tell you, their profiles are in the brochure, and you have an opportunity after here to engage them. Please feel free to engage them, ask them all the questions that you want to ask them personally. Now, I would like us to wrap up. And when I say 1 minute, I mean 1 minute. So, Erastus, we'll start from you. What will be your key takeout for anyone who is listening? And it is 1 minute. I would ask someone to be checking the time for me. And when it is time, please just start clapping. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I had wanted to touch on the order from above per experience on the ground. If there is another 1 minute in addition. Okay. Because on the field, I've experienced order from above so many occasions. People call from Flagstaff House. People call from offices that have power to tell you that this is our place, so don't go there. And I think that what is making it difficult for us to fight illegal mining is the involvement of state actors and political actors. Because you cannot stay in a bucket and try to lift yourself up from with a handle. It's not possible. And that is why we see the solution sitting in the middle and we are all dancing around it as if we don't know what we are doing. We really know how to end it, but there's no political will. And the same people are the ones who are within the forest reserves mining. We know them. So I think it's high time we call a spade, be bold enough as a people, because we are how many? Over 30 million. And there are just a few of them destroying our own resource. If we come together and call a spade, we'll be able to nip this in the bud. Thank you.
One minute. Okay. The young lady who wants to know what to do, you can start anti-Galamsey clubs in the secondary schools, in the primary schools, in the JHS, at the university. You can blog, you can do TikTok. Saturate the media space. Let anti-Galamsey trend. The more we talk about it, the more people think about it. You remember the COVID-19 update. What did the president do? Use language to represent facts. What if we were representing all the facts we've been talking about today on a regular basis? We are showing pictures. We are telling the nation, even as individuals, on TikTok and wherever, the six-footed or six-fingered babies. Show it. Report Galamsey-related diseases, deaths, degraded land, destroyed farmland. Put them up. Okay, 30 seconds. And put these things in songs. When I was growing up, 20 seconds. When I was growing up, GBC, morning, afternoon, evening, night, they would begin and end transmission with "Arise, Ghana youth, for your country." You couldn't do away with that, that song. Let us put the message, what we want people to do. So far, we've been talking about what's the problems. What do we want them to do? Let's put the things we want them to do in the songs, in the TikToks, and let us trend.
Thank you. I think I've said enough in this regard. We need to amend the laws. We need to change the legal framework, but there must be enough noise out there so that if there's an order from above, it will be counted by publicity, be counted by public knowledge, be counted by public revulsion at what is happening so that we can save our resources.
Thank you very much. I think to conclude, I'll also borrow some few words that I heard from my professor some time ago, that the Galamsey issue is actually a full-time problem, but we tend to offer part-time solutions to the Galamsey problem. And one thing I would like to conclude is that, as they said, we have to have a collaborative effort. It's a collective effort for all of us to actually address the Galamsey issue. The district chief executives, the government, the traditional authorities, and then everybody, the academia. It's a collective effort that we must all put in to make sure that we end the Galamsey. And then to end it, I think people must be responsible for the actions they pose on the environment. Somebody has gone to take his goat. I went to break my leg, but he has run away with his goat, take his money, and he's gone. So we need to extend what we call the reclamation bonding scheme, which EPA actually does to the large-scale mining, where they put some amount of money in an escrow account. And when you don't reclaim the land, those monies are used by government to reclaim those lands. They should extend it to the small-scale miners so that they'll be responsible for their environmental actions. Thank you very much.
Okay.
There's something set, so beat it.
Yeah, the issue is that things will not change unless the youth change it. As a man over 60, whether my sperm has two tails, swims backwards or not, I'm farming home. It's not my problem. But you youth, your future is now. You need to solve it. Because if you're going to rely on old men to solve a problem which affects the youth, they're not invested in your solution. Thank you.
And now you may take your seats. Thank you very much for sharing. Indeed, I promised you a riveting conversation, and it was. Thank you so much. I would have loved to capture most of the things that were said, but time is fast spent. So I would like to. Oh, and that was the alarm. Okay, so I would like to capture just one or two things that were raised. So Galamsey, for us to be able to manage it, it is a personal responsibility. Each one of us must play our part. Again, let's stop Galamsey trend. Make it trend. If there is anything you want to pick from here, all the things that we have heard, let us make it trend. On this note, I would like to call on our chairperson, Madam Vice-Chancellor, to kindly come and then give us her closing remarks so we can get on our way. Please clap for her as she takes it.
Thank you. I don't know whether the music is to signal that I should, hurry up and get out of here. I won't take too much of the time, so let's cut the. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. The MC indeed promised a vetting conversation, and that's what we have had this afternoon into this evening. The issues of Galamsey, as we've all heard this evening and probably knew before now, is multifaceted. We have heard the issues relating to the environment. We've seen vivid pictures. We have heard issues impacting on our health. We've heard also the issues impacting on our food systems and the social aspects of all of these. But what I like about this evening is that we have not only provided vivid pictures of how gloomy the situation is, but we've moved into the discussions of solutions. How do we get these resolved? Our panel members, they have been excellent. They have made suggestions, and yes, yeah, they can give them a round of applause. And I won't try to re-say what they have already said, but just to bring up one more dimension into the whole conversation, and that's the matter of social inequities. We've heard speaker after speaker mention that Galamsey is a matter of livelihoods. I spent about 15 years of my growing up years in a mining community in Takwa. I lived in the mining community. It was a nice community, plush green lawns. There was a golf course, a tennis court, swimming pool available for residents. Very nice community. But you walked 10, 15 minutes away, and then you see poor communities. And so I know Galamsey from long ago. And Galamsey was happening in these communities. And why not? They have seen that people have come, multinationals have come, into the town, and they are mining, and as a result, they are living good. Well, they are in the community. Why can't they also get access to the gold so that they can blow time, as they did, and they still do? Even the township itself, you hear about Takwa and you go there, the roads, it's an old town, it's a mining, and it cuts across all these mining towns. You go there and you are disappointed. Like, where is all the gold going to? Is it coming, here to Accra and the other big cities so that they are developed, but these communities are not developed? These are issues that has to be taken also at the governance level, the issue of social inequities in our mining communities and really across our country. Because these people, they are thinking about the now. They are thinking about what they can eat today. They are not projecting into the future, as we have done here this evening. Clearly, the research has been done. The data is available. What we need to do now is to be consistent on the advocacy. And that's the message that I would like us to take home this evening. Let's be consistent on the advocacy. We can't afford to get tired. We just simply can't. So long as the problem persists, we cannot afford to get tired. And so my final words are that let's stop Galamsey trend. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you, and let us clap for Professor Nana Abba Appiah Amfo. Now, again, I want to reiterate that if you think that science and women have no place together, please rethink, because this room today has shown that it is possible. We are coming to the end of our program, and if you just joined us, you have been enjoying the Day of Scientific Renaissance of Africa. We have been discussing the theme, Galamsey, preserving the environment, protecting our future. And you can see across the room the number of people that are here and the diversity of our audience. Now we have come to the end of the program. But we would like to thank you. So we want to have our closing curtsies. That will be done by Dr. Mrs. Elysia Taiba Ameya Brunya. So it's just about Christmas time. So can we please, with a round of applause, welcome her here.
Thanks very much, Mrs. Sakite Ahiadome. Madam Vice-Chancellor and Chair, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please permit me to leverage on existing protocols to say a word or two in appreciation to all of you. On behalf of the management of this university, I would like to express our sincerest gratitude for your presence here today. Your support and participation have made this year's celebration of the Day of Scientific Renaissance of Africa truly special. I would like to acknowledge our Vice-Chancellor, Professor Nanaba Appiah Amfo, and the entire management of this university for setting aside the month of June for the celebration of DSRA. This affords all academic units in the university the platform to exhibit their research outputs. Management, your foresight is really appreciated. Our heartfelt thanks go to the esteemed keynote speakers and panelists for sharing such valuable and diverse insights about Galamsey. You have really broadened our perspectives and horizon about the topic under discussion, and we hope to escalate the discussion here to the national level to help safeguard our environment and our health. Again, we acknowledge our media partners, sponsors, technical team, the Ghana Dance Ensemble, and our sponsors for your generous support. Your contribution has been very instrumental in making this event a success. A special word of appreciation goes to the team that worked behind the scenes to pull off this successful program, the planning committee, jointly chaired by the Pro-Vice-Chancellor for Research, Innovation and Development, Professor Phyllis Ankuma Asante, and Mrs. Cynthia Edu, Deputy Registrar at ORID. Your hard work and vision generated dedication and attention to detail to enable us pull off this event successfully, and we say well done to you. May I also use this opportunity to salute all our student guests from PESEC and Achimota schools, and each one of you here for joining us both physically and virtually. Your presence has made a difference, and we hope that the networks and knowledge gained today will have a positive impact on all of us. Indeed, we notice how close we are to the negative impacts of Galamsey. Our health, our food systems, and environment are adversely affected. Let's remember to spread the news. What we have heard today, and be active members of the fight against Galamsey. Let us also saturate the media space with anti-Galamsey messages, as we've been advised by our panelists. Once again, thank you very much, and we all deserve a very loud round of applause. Please permit me to use this opportunity to take a couple of announcements. We have some upcoming events which you may see on the back cover of our brochure, but for those of you who don't have copies, I would like to go through. On 4th July, that's next week Thursday, at 4:30 p.m., we are going to have an inter-college lecture to be delivered at the College of Education. The topic is Transforming Local Communities in Ghana. Is dialogue-based education the answer? This will happen in the smart classroom of the School of Continuing and Distance Education. Then on 11th July at 5 p.m., there will be an inaugural lecture. The lecturer is here with us. You've listened to him. That's Professor Richmond Niokai Aite. And he's going to speak to the topic, Child Feeding for Human Health and Development, Bridging the No-Do Gap. You wouldn't want to miss this one. It's taking place on 11th July at the Great Hall of this university. Please make sure you are a part of it. So listen more to Professor Aite. Our current strategic plan is getting to a close. This strategic plan enjoins us to become a world-class research-intensive university, and is closing at the end of July. And so we are going to welcome a new strategic plan. On the 17th of July, we're going to launch our strategic plan, our 5-year strategic plan, and also officially outdoor 3 major university documents. That's our research strategy, our revised statutes, and manual on human resource management and administration policies. We implore all members of the university community to keep the date open and join us in the Great Hall for this very important program. It will happen on 17 June at 10 a.m. On 17 July, 10 a.m. at the Great Hall. On 19 July, we're going to have the 2024 Demo Day Students Venture Support Program at the ISE Conference Facility. As students, you know what this is about. You've experienced it before, and so we invite you to spread the news and invite all other students to be present at the program. You were already informed, and I want to reiterate that the exhibition is ongoing at the foyer. When we go upstairs, we will see that research outputs from different units of the university are displayed. Some are on sale. So go and check what is on exhibition and buy some of our products. I don't think our products are contaminated by all the Galamsey things that have been mentioned here. So make sure that you patronize the products that are displayed there. For the order of refreshments, we invite our senior members, keynote speakers, panelists, moderator, and guests to move to the foyer where we have the exhibition for refreshments. To our students, we implore you all to remain seated. Both our students from UG and our student guests from PESEC and Achimota, please remain seated. Our administrators and ushers will have a brief chat with you and see you off very nicely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I promised you Christmas in June and I delivered. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we would have a group of photographs. But before that, we would sing the UG school anthem. So shall we all be upstanding? And you can find the lyrics on page 20, which is the last page.
Hope and glory, the place that bears the star of
Please give yourselves a very big applause. Thank you very much. Now, please do not be in a hurry to leave. We want to take some memorable pictures. I would like to invite our panelists to kindly come forward for the first set of pictures. Please, the students, kindly wait. We have Christmas for you in June, so please wait. So yes, please join me on stage. Photographers, are you ready? Photographers, they said up here, up or down? Up, yes, up. All right, so we take the panelists first. After that, we would take the keynote speakers. I have a feeling I should insert my. Yes, please.